Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm so excited to start recapping the final season of Insecure on HBO. This is bittersweet, but before I even begin getting into what this season has started off to be, I just want to pull over and say that I want some of you to go outside really, really badly. And the way that some people are responding to this show with critiques of the Black experience and like what's allowed and what isn't allowed. And, as a person who's a part of a Greek organization, I'm really concerned that some of you are still making your affiliation the pinnacle of your identity. If that is still at the forefront of who you are as a person, I want you to consider that maybe you need to do some growth and to go so far as to assume that this show filled with Black creators who are familiar with Black Greek organizations wouldn't get these things cleared. Go outside and go experience some life. The way that people responded even to the fact that they went to Stanford, which I think was actually made quite clear from the beginning of the series, it was like, these conversations about class and elitism. And once again, they started up the battle between PWIs and HBCUs. And I can now actually see why maybe Issa is ready to walk away from this show. This show is like so for us, and the fact that it never seems to be enough. It never seems to be right enough. I don't think people understand, like, Black people are not a monolith, okay? Whatever your experience is as a Black person, no matter where you grew up, if you grew up around a bunch of Black people, if you grew up as the only Black person, however you have lived your life, that is a Black experience and that is valid. You need to validate that for yourself, but you cannot expect for every single Black show that comes out, it's unreasonable for you to have the expectation that it should be a direct reflection of your Black experience. That's not fair to Black creatives. That's not reasonable, because then you would have a bunch of people pulling from experiences that they just probably have not had. If you care that much about it, go create your own damn show and make your show a reflection of your exact absolute Black experience, if it means that much to you. Like, I have been so annoyed with some of the think piecery that has come out of just like, damn, this is the first episode of the final season and y'all are already draining. Go outside, go to brunch, take a walk in the park, put your feet in some grass, experience some life, and leave people the hell alone to enjoy the things that they enjoy. Now, let's get to it. So our heroes are at Stanford, their alma mater, for their 10-year reunion. And I absolutely love the timing of this because it's kind of around like homecoming time right now, IRL. And so I think that's also good, like really helping to pull people into this story. So Issa and Molly are still awkward and uncomfortable with each other, which is super normal. Whenever you have a breakup, whether it's romantic, familial, platonic, whatever, when there's a break in the friendship, that coming back together is awkward as shit at first, even if both parties absolutely desire to just get back on track and move forward. It's awkward as hell. Like, think about like when you've had an argument with your mama and you know that there's no point in really talking about it because like this is just who she is. It's like going back around after that argument. It's just awkward. And I'm really enjoying that we get to see them navigate that space in real time. This episode did a really good job with the use of silence as a communication device. What I mean by that is a couple of examples that I'll touch on. But when we see Issa and Molly converse with each other in the group and then just alone with the two of them, it's the glances and the uncertainty and the that thing, and like the very pregnant pauses where there is no dialogue, but we collectively, like in the audience, know exactly what's happening. I absolutely love that. I love that the cinematography was able to capture the impact of the silence in that moment. And that's just one of a few examples. So I'll touch on the rest of them as we go through this episode. So we find out that Molly is in therapy. Molly has been on a journey. She's been sharing inspirational quotes on her Instagram, posting just one eye, which is why I do have questions about that. Molly, angles, baby, angles and lighting. What is that about? But it looks like she's in the beginning stages of what it's like to get serious into therapy. In previous seasons, we've been concerned that Molly hasn't really been honest with her therapist, but it looks like she's really on the path to self-awareness and not overthinking and being present in the moment. And when you're first starting out on that journey, even if you've been on that journey for a while, because it's not linear, you can start to overthink about overthinking, which is what we see her do throughout this episode. But that makes me happy because it tells me that at least her mind is working on a wavelength of self-awareness, which Molly just did not have, in previous seasons. So that made me really happy. So they arrived to register for the events of the weekend for this reunion, and Kelly finds out that Kelly has died. Now, what I love about this is that this is the introduction to us getting more of a character arc from Kelly. I'm so happy that they did this because the quotes that people offered for Kelly, the way that she was remembered by people for a hypothetical death, for an accidentally reported death, she's realizing that people don't take her seriously. And she's questioning, like, what legacy would I leave behind if I were dead? And even her expectation to be more remembered by the band. And no one really had anything to say about her other than the fact that she carried a purse and had a good stanky leg. And it's like, that's not what you want to be remembered for. And what I also really found interesting, and I had to stop and think about it, Kelly is a really, really, really good friend. And when you listen to the things that she says about, like, she did someone's like homework for them, or took someone's like Mandarin exams or something for them, I wonder if Kelly has a people-pleasing streak. And a lot of times when you have a people-pleasing bone in you, it's a trauma response. And I hope we get to see, like, what the root of that is. And this is just me, like, guessing. I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything of the sort. But Kelly has been a really supportive friend to all of them. And so I really want to see where her character goes from here, because she has just been the funny and very supportive friend and the very realistic friend sometimes as well. And no matter how happy-go-lucky or free-spirited a person is, even like, first discovering that, damn, people think I'm dead. Well, maybe this will be a good opportunity for me to get off the grid and try a different identity of French. Like, okay, all of the happy-go-lucky, all of the free-spiritedness, the hard emotions and the darkness, they have to go somewhere. They have to come out somewhere. And I'm hoping that her character development, her character arc builds to something really incredible. So I'm happy to see just some different facets of the Kelly character. And I love that she's still funny. I mean, honestly, you need comic relief. I was listening to a podcast, ironically enough, about death, and they were saying that they actually really hate when very dramatic movies and TV shows have no comic relief, because in real life, even when there are really hard things happening, there is some comedy in there somewhere. So Issa is a panelist. They sent a car for her. They flew her out. She got flued out. She has a handler. They're treating her like a very, VIP guest. One thing that I noticed, the group is actually being much more supportive of Issa this season. It's not the shady comments. It's not like, they're really like supporting her and pouring into her and reassuring her. And that made me really happy, because it's hard to watch people not get the support that they need and or deserve from their friend group. It's triggering. So I was happy to see that. What I will say, though, about this, and also I love that Molly asked Kelly, like, when you and Tiffany had y'all's falling out, how long did it take for you guys to get back on track? And she says that they were fake okay before they were real okay. And that's just a part of the process. But I really enjoyed that dialogue. I also really like that Molly said, thanks, those were words. Because sometimes that's all a person can give you when you ask for advice and it ain't really giving what it was supposed to have gave. But Kelly also said, just assess like where she is in her life and what she needs and try to be what she needs. And I feel like I saw Molly actively trying to do that. So Issa is once again not prepared fully. She can't really remember her acronym for block. And she's a panelist on this, I guess, like entrepreneurship panel. I really find a lot of those panel discussions frustrating, especially ones that are like a part of like a women's empowerment brunch, because a lot of the advice and the things that the people are saying is very generic. I prefer like a TED talk where somebody's like saying like something with more substance, but the standard believe in yourself and work really hard and all this and that. I think with entrepreneurship, with any kind of venture that you go into, you learn by doing. And sure, it's helpful to get counsel and to like listen to other people's experiences, but you ultimately just have to do stuff and fail. And listening to a bunch of people on a panel give you just like brief overviews or like I said, generic responses, it's not actually going to push you any further in your career. So I find those panel discussions to be really annoying anyway, unless it's like a stellar group of people and a really good host, and which I would love to be, and they have something really specific to dive into, or they're discussing things that you can really like pull the substance out of. So I was really happy like when the dude like quoted the Kanye line, because that is the stuff that people actually like respond to more, is the generic stuff, because sometimes people really actually don't want to think that deeply about things and they just want those surface answers. So I thought that was really quite indicative of what it's like to be an influencer and see the things that people respond to, and much like Issa, like question yourself of like, am I not doing as well as I thought that I was doing? Because I'm not where these people are. Like my stuff isn't, fully funded or, whatever, these different benchmarks for letting people know that you've made it. This is also why it's important to have your own definition of success. I have actually decided that I will know that I have made it when I can afford to get a massage whenever I want. That's one of my definitions of success. Y'all can borrow that if you need to. Did y'all peep the flute player at the party that was playing to the Too Short? I thought it was so funny. She was getting it. They also run into an old friend, Cheyenne. Just as an aside, did anybody peep that Cheyenne was fine as hell? What a body. I was like, okay, push through. They can't remember why they fell out with Cheyenne. She was a part of their rap group. And shouts out to Tiffany for having just like stellar discernment in that moment. She's like, I can't remember why I didn't like her, but I didn't. She's a lot, so I'm just going to go over here. I also just want to say I was really feeling Kelly's looks this episode. Love. There's a plot afoot to hook Molly up with a newly divorced former booty call, and I loved that we got to see her overthink that. I love that we got to see her quickly identify her own pattern of like, oh, this is what I do with guys. I start like obsessing. I start overthinking. I need to be more present, whatever. Again, self-awareness. Beautiful, Molly. Absolutely love it. So Cheyenne invites the girls to a party at a location that Issa was once kicked out of. I want the tea on that. Why was she kicked out? So they head to this party and Kelly snaps. And even in Kelly snapping, where she's like, is everything a joke to y'all? They still don't take her seriously. And I felt that really deeply. So again, I'm happy to see some development with her character. So Cheyenne suggests that they pull over and like get their own liquor before and sneak it into the club beforehand. Now, Cheyenne gave us a couple of clues that she was a nefarious character. She snuck into the reunion, right? She was like, she's not about to pay for none of this. And her whole demeanor, her whole behavior, like when it turns out that she was a part of the setup for them to be robbed by her homeboy, it was like, oh, this tracks. Like, this tracks. And I just really hope that at some point they run up on Cheyenne and beat her ass. That's my hope for the future. Kind of like on Friday when Smokey and Craig did eventually get that little boy who was knocking over the trash cans, like the satisfaction. Cheyenne has to somehow come back around because I need to see her get her ass beat for like taking Molly's very cute shoes. And the fact that they didn't want Issa's shoe. Was Issa wearing a wedge again? Y'all know how I feel about a wedge. However, the trauma of them mutually getting robbed seemed to be like a really good icebreaker for them to kind of get back in the groove of their friendship. So the whole group goes to breakfast and they memorialize Kelly in her presence and tell her who and what she actually is and has been to them in this life. And I actually really love that. I think it made up for what she experienced that weekend and a moment of like, no, take me seriously for what I'm going through. Also, it really made me want some pancakes, and I still want some pancakes. Am I gonna make myself a pancake? Anyway, so we finally get a view of Lawrence. Once again, the device of silence to communicate the feelings was so good here. He picks her up. He's trying to talk. She's kind of looking like, ooh, you know, and I love that before we even got to that part, Molly and Issa, you know, have the conversation of, are we going to be okay? And Prentice Penny, who is a showrunner for Insecure, said that are we going to be okay is actually the theme of the season, and that's the lens through which we should view this whole season. And I don't know if that's a millennial perspective. I don't know if that's a 30s, in your 30s perspective. But I like that Issa and Molly went back and forth over like, I'm overthinking a lot, but I don't want to do this. I just want to move forward in my life. I don't want to have to question whether or not I am this or I am that. And I'm really happy that they came to the place where it was just like, look, I just want to move forward. And that's going to take time as well. And so without really saying much, you know, Issa tells Lawrence that she's done some thinking, and pregnant pause, just silence between the two of them and looking back and forth at each other. And Lawrence looked like he was going to cry, like the clenching of the jaw, the flaring of the nostrils, like all of that. And I still am not sure if I want that relationship to work or not, given that we know that this baby is in the picture. But I was really heartbroken in that moment that like, wow, maybe they really can't move past this. And like, maybe this is it. Maybe they have concluded that they've run their course. But I did look at the bonus features, which gave like a preview of what's to come on the season. So it looks like at some point Lawrence is actually going to move back in town, and maybe, you know, some things change there. We'll see what happened. Nansford is going to come back through. You know, lots of eye candy for us. So I'm excited for what the season has to offer. Slide in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about episode 1. Let me know your predictions for the rest of the season. What are you hoping to happen for Issa and Lawrence? Are you rooting for them? Are you not? Let's start a dialogue. Be sure to like and comment and share and subscribe and become a patron. I will be back here every week to recap these episodes. I'm so excited to do this again. This is how I really got into my groove of YouTubing. So I'm excited to have another season to recap with you guys. So I will see you next week. Bye.